Good morning, all of you. Welcome back to the channel. So we are starting with the analysis video for 23rd of October 2023. So we are seeing a humanitarian crisis unfolds in the hospitals of Gaza as Israel, it continues with the attacks. So it is again violation of the human rights, the UN Declaration on Human Rights. So through trucks with the fuel, they enter the Palestinian enclave from Egypt. So Egypt, we are seeing that humanitarian aid has been provided and the border has been opened up. Apart from this, aid in the sense of different, the hospital services like 120 baby incubators, machines are being provided. So apart from this, UNICEF, this is again an update from UNICEF. So 80 people have died, 30 houses have been destroyed. So this is a small update. And then India has also sent relief goods to the civilian population. So therein we have again, it would be sent to Egypt to the El Arish airport. So it includes items like essential life-saving medicines, surgical items, sleeping bags, tarpaulins, sanitary utilities. So all of these things in the form of the aid has been provided by India. So this is there. Then Canada's actions, they are in violation of the Vienna Convention. The Vienna Convention is about the diplomatic relations. So here, the Indian Minister of External Affairs, he says that ensuring safety and security of diplomats is most fundamental aspect of the Vienna Convention. And right now, that is what has in many ways been challenged in Canada because we are seeing withdrawal of diplomats from both the countries of each other's sides. So this issue comes to the highlight. We know the growing tensions between India and Canada over the Khalistan issue because of, again, how even internal security threats, sometimes they can, again, take the form of the transnational crimes or how even, they become internationally related or linked. So that's there. So basically, India says that we are seeing in Canada, because of some, again, political reasons, the current Prime Minister of Canada is not coming, clearly against the Khalistani problem. So there are some, again, political interest involved in that. So that is there.
Mansi,
Yeah.
here Canada has said that India is violating the Vienna Convention on withdrawal of 41 diplomats. But our Foreign Minister Sri Jaishankar ji has said that inducing the parity between the number of foreign diplomat in each country is not a violation of Vienna Convention. मेरे अपने जितने डिप्लोमेट कनाडा में हैं उनके जितने डिप्लोमेट मेरे यहाँ हैं दोनों का पैरिटी के लिए उन्होंने बोला कि बाकी डिप्लोमेट को आप वापस भेजिए तो ये वायलेशन नहीं है वियना कन्वेंशन का तो ये जयशंकर कहना था कल ही था
तो यहाँ पे बेसिकली सिक्योरिटी ऑफ डिप्लोमेट्स ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है ना तो वो बोला भी जा रहा है कि दैट इज मोस्ट फंडामेंटल थिंग ऑफ वीना कन्वेंशन तो विड्रॉइंग
हाँ
के पीछे भी जो रीजन है दैट इज सिक्योरिटी सो इन अ वे दैट इज
सिक्योरिटी और दो पैरिटी मतलब मेरे यहाँ का मेरा जो डिप्लोमेट है ना वो कम है वहां पर उनका डिप्लोमेट ज्यादा है यहाँ पर तो पैरिटी दोनों का होना चाहिए तो इसके लिए भी वियना कन्वेंशन का वायलेशन नहीं है ऐसा उन्होंने
ठीक है
Oshik, I have a question that the people who are going to Canada, the particular community which is going to Canada in large number, and that is called the mini Punjab. The similar trends are seen in Australia like countries, in UK and in US also. But why this specific problem is only based from Canada? Why not from Australia? Why we are seeing the this kind of agitation and frustration in the people of India when they reach the Canada? If you can shed some light on this.
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कनाडा जो है वो हिस्टोरिकल माइग्रेशन है एज कंपेयर टू न्यूजीलैंड और ऑस्ट्रेलिया जहां पर रिसेंटली माइग्रेशन हुआ है और कनाडा में जो उनका पॉलिटिक्स है वो बेसिकली हर जगह है वो डिफेंस मिनिस्टर भी बने हैं उसमें से साथ ही साथ जो दूसरा पार्टी है जगदीप सिंह का वो भी सपोर्ट करता है एनडीपी वो भी सपोर्ट करते हैं रूलिंग पार्टी को। तो उनका जो पॉलिटिक्स है विद रिगार्डिंग टू सेपरेटिज्म और वो तो ज्यादा है कनाडा में, इसके कारण। ऑस्ट्रेलिया में उनका उतना पॉलिटिकल पावर नहीं है,
पॉलिटिकल
इसलिए।
पावर में, हाँ, पॉलिटिकल रीजंस में भी जो अभी करंट गवर्नमेंट पावर में है, दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ अगेन कोalition
दे
parties.
ऑल्सो नीड द
So
सपोर्ट ऑफ द कोल। हाँ,
one of the parties जो है that clearly supports this Khalistani demand. So ये जो political reason है, Justin Trudeau, that is why he is not, coming clearly in opposition of this problem. So ये major reason है why again these tensions are specifically between India and Canada.
Okay.
और प्लस वी कैन ऑल्सो से कि जो शेयर ऑफ इंडियन डायस्पोरा है कनाडा में, दैट इज ऑल्सो रफली अराउंड 4% ऑफ जो कनाडा की टोटल पॉपुलेशन है, उसमें 4% शेयर इज ऑफ इंडियंस. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो आई थिंक कंपैरेटिवली हायर कंपेयर टू अदर कंट्रीज लाइक ऑस्ट्रेलिया.
So, like our diplomats are not safe, and our other community people who are based in Canada, for an example, I'm specifically taking the name of Marwadi community based from Gujarat. They are the most, targeted person in these countries by, such kind of extremist activities. So, how Indian government is going to ensure the security and safety of its people as well as of its diplomats?
starting with what Jaishankar is saying regarding the security of diplomats, and our government is raising the issue with the Canadian counterparts every year and every time. But this time, India will raise the issue in the FATF also. There is certain indication towards it that Canada is violating the Vienna Convention and it is not uh, acting much on terrorism and separatism. तो उस पर तो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का स्टैंड था, वो अब थोड़ा ज्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट हो रहा है, तो उसके कारण ठीक हो सकता है बाद में, क्योंकि अल्टीमेटली गवर्नमेंट अब इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ज्यादा नहीं कर सकती है, वो कनाडा गवर्नमेंट के साथ काम करना पड़ेगा और उनको प्रेशराइज करना पड़ेगा। तो कैसे प्रेशराइज कर सकते हैं? तो 2 3 4 चैनल है जो अभी आप देख ही रहे, वन ऑफ द चैनल।
ठीक.
So months after community added to the scheduled tribe list, Himachal Pradesh it asked the Delhi to define the Hatties. So Hatties, it's a community which is found in Himachal Pradesh state. And as far as जब हम power की बात करते हैं, so power lies in the hands of parliament when it comes to making changes in this list of scheduled tribes. So here, months after the Hatti community of Himachal Pradesh Transgiri area was included in a scheduled tribe list of state, there is confusion in the tribal development department about who Hattis actually are and whether people already classified as SCs, they should be included as members of this community or not. So basically definition of Hattis. So यहाँ पे again this is a very difficult task कि आप एक community को कैसे define कर सकते हो. So this is again something which is again we have a lot of ambiguous elements part of it when it comes to defining a particular community. So we're talking about cyclone, basically the Tej cyclone. Now it is extremely severe cyclone. And this is again a formation which is there in the Arabian Sea. So yellow alert issued for the 8 districts in Kerala. So firstly, there are different kinds of alerts which are again recognized on the basis of their color according to their riskiness. So Kerala is likely to receive the isolated heavy rainfall triggered by this weather system. So we can again firstly look into the categorization of different cyclones, and apart from this, what are the climatic conditions which leads to formation of tropical cyclones. Apart from this, of late we are seeing that frequency and the numbers of cyclones specifically in the Arabian Sea, even that has been rising comparatively when we see the numbers in the Bay of Bengal. So these are some aspects. Apart from this, again, this is one of the outcomes because of, again, the impact of climate change as well. So that is there. So here in severe cyclonic storm, the wind speed is around 125 to 135 km/h. So on the basis of wind speed, we have different categories of cyclones. So the quote's no fundamental right to marry is wrong. According to the writer, he feels that this is something which is wrong. So herein of late we saw when it comes to the recognition of the legalization, the same-sex marriage. So Supreme Court was very clear, said that it is firstly it should be again done by the legislature, that is the parliament, and not the Supreme Court or the court or the judiciary directly. And the second important thing highlighted was that right to marry is not your fundamental right. And then other issues were also taken up. There were again, we saw certain divisions even in the judiciary over different stances regarding what is going to be again their take when it comes to adoption of children by the same-sex couples. So previously we saw that Nas Foundation case, wherein we saw in 2009 Delhi High Court it read down section 377 of IPC, but ultimately it was, scrapped by the Supreme Court in the Tej Cyclone 2018 case, where basically heterosexuality was decriminalized. Then, so it is again a part of it basically is a symbol of colonialism. So this is also becomes a part of when we talk about decolonization of specifically the laws and the provisions, and specifically as we are seeing in the case of even CRPC and IPC. So we are coming up with a different structure which is in sync with the current demands, the current challenges that we have. So often we see that stigmatization is also attached to the third gender community. And it had also been held that court in diverse decisions that in India, a person is entitled to autonomy, dignity, privacy, and the right to choose their own partners to live with or in marriage. So obviously after Navtej Singh Johar case, then there were again demands ki same-sex marriage ko legalize kar diya jana chahiye. And marriage shouldn't be again between male and female. So these are certain ideas. And again, gender को भी कैसे आप categorize करते हो, कैसे आप gender को भी define करते हो, that shouldn't be again on the basis of your sexuality. So these were other things that were highlighted. And again, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So in a way, it is also a violation of this also, because the fundamental court decision of Supreme Court in the Supriyo Chakrabarti case is that there is no fundamental right to marry in India. So the name of this case is the Supriyo Chakrabarti case. And in arriving at this particular decision, so court ignored the fact that India, it was an original signatory. To somewhere it is violation of human rights. So this is the thing, which is again one argument. And as a signatory to this declaration, India being a signatory, legislation by the parliament and the state legislatures in India, it must be in accordance with this declaration firstly. More importantly, courts in India, they have interpreted the constitution and different statutes in line with this declaration at the same time, and other international covenants. So Article 16 of this Universal Declaration on Human Rights, 1948, it says that men and women of full age, without any limitation due to race, nationality, or religion, they have the right to marry and to found a family. So herein also, it is specifically mentioning men and women. So again, this becomes a little ambiguous thing. So the right to marry is a human right. And in the face of this, can it be argued that it is not a fundamental right or not? So human right hai. So so there's a question that are all human rights fundamental rights or not? And then vice versa as well, that all fundamental rights are human rights or not? So according to me, all fundamental rights are human rights, but we can't say that all human rights are fundamental rights. So this can be one thing. And again, Supreme Court has also read this right to be treated with dignity into Article 21 of the Constitution. And it is on that basis that positive rights, including the right to education, food, environment, they have been evolved. So these are some other positive rights. So that's there. And even when we talk about the overall constitution on the whole, so Supreme Court has even used the provisions of this Universal Declaration on Human Rights even to elaborate other rights which are mentioned in the constitution. So basically this has also been used in a way to interpret the different fundamental rights which are part of the constitution. So basically, we can say that the constitution that is somewhere it is in sync with this declaration at the same time. Then in Menka Gandhi case, the Supreme Court relied on Article 10 of this declaration to read in principles of natural justice into the administrative process to state. So natural justice, and then again, including due process of law. So these are some important elements. Then so irony is that for the transgender persons, the court holds that marriage between a trans man and a cis woman or between a trans woman and a cis man is legal. That is correct, but there lies irony. It needs to be appreciated that according to the logic of this judgment, marriage is only legal between man and woman, that is a biological man and woman. So court has rightly made the leap for the biological sex to gender, which is self-identified in accordance with the Nazi judgment. And if this leave it was possible for even the biological sex to self-identify gender, it is difficult to understand why this leap it could not be made for the biological sex to sexual orientation. So there are again multiple arguments, ifs and buts around a particular idea. So basically this is a very complex thing. Let's see now what is going to be the take or the stand or the actions of.
So I would like to add one point, Mansi, that the skepticism for this, same-sex marriage is because that people are not able to understand that there is a thin line of difference between two concepts, that is liking, and one is the biological chemical reactions in the hormones. So if the same-sex marriage would have been the result of liking, then if the government and the institution and the society altogether are banning that, it would have been correct. But the problem is, this is not liking. This is the chemical reaction which are happening inside the body, which are biologically and scientifically correct. So the court, society, and institutions should try to understand that this is not liking, and we should try to support the argument of scientific reactions which are happening inside the bodies, which are letting this thing to happen.
See, I would just say that I would not, support you completely in this, because my simple idea is why they should not have this legal right to marry. वो अब चाहे किसी भी रीजन से हो, आप जो बोलो लाइकिंग की वजह से हो या बिकॉज ऑफ केमिकल रिएक्शन और हार्मोनल थिंग्स, बट मेन आइडिया जो है, क्या उनको लीगल राइट टू मैरी नहीं मिलनी चाहिए? दे आर आल्सो ह्यूमंस एज वेल.
I didn't say that they should not be given. I supported your argument by giving a scientific reason.
हाँ, तो आई एम सेइंग कि पीछे के रीजंस आई डोंट थिंक सो कंपैरेटिवली इतने इम्पोर्टेंट. जो मेन आइडिया है, आई गेस दैट इज मच मोर इम्पोर्टेंट. सो दैट इज जस्ट माय टेक ऑन दिस. Kaushik, do you want to say something here?
I want to add just one point, that many of the people don't know the difference between the biological sex and gender. This is the first thing. And regarding marrying, I want to say that what is normal and what is मतलब नॉर्मल से हटके, क्योंकि आज ट्रांस वुमेन और सिस वुमेन के बीच में मैरिज है, कल फिर देयर विल बी अ सेक्स चेंज, पर्टिकुलरली मैन टू वुमेन, वुमेन टू मैन. तो वहां पर किसका चलेगा? व्हाट इज, तो कैसे डिसाइड होगा कि कैसे अबॉर्शन करना है, कैसे इनहेरिटेंस होगा? तो ऑल दीज थिंग्स नीड टू बी टेकन इनटू अकाउंट फॉर गिविंग देम राइट्स टू मैरिज.
हाँ, ये बाकी फिर रेपरकशंस बिल्कुल होंगे बाकी एरियाज में भी, जैसे अडॉप्शन में आपने बोला,
सिर्फ सिस वुमेन और ट्रांस वुमेन का नहीं है ना, यहाँ पर बात हो रही है कि जो जेंडर सर्जरी हो रहा है. आज मान लो मैं लड़का हूँ, कल मैं लड़की बन गया, तो इनहेरिटेंस राइट्स कैसे अफेक्ट होगा?
हाँ, वो सब
बाद में, तो वो भी मैटर है.
हाँ, तो वो कुछ कंसर्न्स एंड चैलेंजेस हैं अराउंड दिस, अगर ये चीज लीगलाइज हो जाती है तो. ये
जब हो जाएगा तब जाके लीगल कर सकते हैं इसको प्रॉपरली, क्योंकि प्यार तो कर ही सकते हैं, तो बोला ही गया है, आप मैरिज नहीं कर सकते. तो देयर इज वेरी सिंपल डिफरेंस बिटवीन मैरिंग एंड जो लव. और आप स्पेशल मैरिज एक्ट में आप कर सकते हैं, लेकिन आपके पास वो अधिकार
पर्सनल
नहीं है
तो हाँ
जो एक
पर्सनल
नॉर्मल मैन एंड वुमेन के बीच में है मैरिज में। तो ये जब निटिग्रिटी जब इस पर काम हो सकता है उसके बाद ही फिर इसको लीगली आप कर सकती है, क्योंकि 99.9% पॉपुलेशन को आप 1% के हिसाब से नहीं चेंज कर सकते। आपको 1% का भी ख्याल रखना है और थोड़ा देखना है कि क्या ये पॉसिबल है समाज के अंदर में, फिर आप डिस्कस
हाँ इंक्लूसिवली लेके चलना है। यस
हाँ।
So herein we have another important topic from GS3 economy about कि क्या earnings increase हुई है, have they grown after the post-pandemic, in the post-pandemic time period. So while the concerns regarding the forms of work, जहाँ पे हमने देखा है they have been extensively discussed, the aspects of earnings must also be examined to better understand condition of Indian labor market. So again this is very important. इसमें भी चीजें multiply हम divide करके समझेंगे तो we'll get much more clarity over here. So firstly recent data जो है that will be analyzing and assessing would be from the labor force survey of the periodic labor force survey of 2022-23. It has revealed that there is strengthening of the labor market. We are seeing unemployment rate fall हो रहे हैं and labor force participation rates definitely वो भी steadily increase हो रहा है. So rural women का labor force participation rate for those who are aged 15 above, that has been increasing. And significant jump हमें यहाँ पे देखने को मिला है between 2018-19 and 2022-23. From we can say it is almost doubled. Then these results, they were taken examples of a robust post-pandemic recovery of, so basically as an indicator key how strong was a recovery after the COVID-19 times. So this is again a one indicator of that thing, but definitely there are cautions also because as a caution we are seeing inflation's been increasing, so वो negative pressure डाल रहा है और negatively affect कर रहा है the real purchasing power of the Indian labor market. So जो new employment भी generate हो रही है for the women, that has been in self-employment sector. So this is one thing and one trend which is emerging out. There has been a rise in the proportion of women who are working as unpaid family helpers. This is there with the share of the rural working women in this form of employment that is rising. So basically rural working women की अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं तो basically their share is increasing more in case of unpaid family helpers. So that's there, and the share of women in the regular wage work that has fallen. So this is again a cause of concern. So that's there, and greater employment seem to be coming at the cost of suitable working conditions, especially for the women. So some trade-offs and opportunity costs definitely do exist. So wages and the earnings increase हुई है, again inflation high है, so inflation is higher than the earnings growth and real earnings that reduces because of this. So ultimately वो हमारी जो purchasing power है उसको reduce कर देता है. Then status of earnings के अगर हम in detail बात करें, so here we'll examine real earnings basically उसमें क्या changes हुए हैं of the workforce between quarters of April-June 2019 and April-June 2023. So covering this period before the onset of the pandemic, so before pandemic और after pandemic का हम compare कर रहे हैं. So the periodic labor force survey, it collects information regarding की earnings क्या है of the regular wage workers, जिसमें again regular wage workers, casual workers and self-employed. जिसमें regular wage workers, they have been fixed work hours. So these are the three major class जिसकी data is recorded and collected for the earnings. So herein we look at the monthly wage earnings of the regular wage workers की अगर हम बात करें their monthly wages, so and the gross earnings of the previous month for the self-employment. So for the casual workers, average daily wages they're converted to monthly. So यहाँ पे basically in a way एक brief दिया गया है कि क्या क्या चीजें consideration में ली गई हैं. So between 2019 and 23, only casual workers, both men and women across both the rural and urban sectors, they saw a net increase in their average real monthly earnings. So this is one important trend. Women casual workers में भी increase हुई है उनकी real wages, and even that is true for the main casual workers also. So this is one thing that is there, and significant inflation over this period that ate away at the gains of the workers resulting in lesser real incomes. So basically जो real earnings increase हुई थी, that was again a positive boost for our economic growth, but at the same time inflation भी increase हो रही थी, तो उसकी वजह से जो net impact हुआ है वो कम हुआ है, because inflation increase होने की वजह से ultimately real purchasing power decrease हो गई है. And significant differences between अर्बन एंड रूरल सेक्टर्स भी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं. तो अर्बन मेल की अगर बात करें, सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड वर्कर्स दे सॉ अ रिडक्शन इन द रियल अर्निंग्स. सो यहाँ पे अगेन डिफरेंट ट्रेंड्स, बट ओवरऑल जो ब्रॉडर ट्रेंड था एक वही था. एंड इम्पैक्ट ऑफ इन्फ्लेशन हुआ है, बिगेस्ट डिक्लाइंस हमें देखने को मिला है इन दी रियल परचेसिंग पावर. सिग्निफिकेंट राइज इन एम्प्लॉयमेंट जरूर हो रहा है, बट एम्प्लॉयमेंट भी इंक्रीज हो रही है सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट सेक्टर में, स्पेसिफिकली फॉर द वुमेन. ऑफ लेट अभी हमें मॉडरेशन इन इन्फ्लेशन देखने को मिल रहा है, एंड बट आने वाले टाइम में क्या ट्रेंड रहेगा वो हमारे लिए मॉनिटर करना इंपॉर्टेंट है. कोर इन्फ्लेशन स्टिल टॉलरेंस बैंड के अंदर है, बट अगेन फूड इन्फ्लेशन एक कंसर्न है. तो ऑब्वियसली फूड इन्फ्लेशन, फ्यूल इन्फ्लेशन डायरेक्टली कंज्यूमर के इंटरेस्ट को, उनकी परचेजिंग पावर के ऊपर डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट करती है. सो दीज आर अदर एरियाज. सो दिस वाज वन ट्रेंड. So herein, to curb the tax evasion, European Union report, it calls for 2% global wealth tax on billionaires. So this is again a suggestion coming from European Union, and this will generate around $250 billion from less than 3,000 individuals. And this report, it also highlights the success of even automatic exchange of the bank data in reducing the offshore tax evasion. So tax evasion के लिए again क्या हमने measures लिए हैं? One is the double taxation avoidance agreement. And herein, we are also going ahead with, basically we are still discussions are going on regarding कि global minimum tax होना चाहिए to avoid these things, and जो again companies benefit उठाती हैं of the tax havens, उसको हम eliminate कर सके. And again यहाँ पे इस step की वजह से, this is implemented also this 2% global wealth tax. So this would again global level पे कहीं ना कहीं inequality in income and wealth को भी reduce करने में help करेगा. So this is again going to be a progressive form of tax. So,
Mansi,
yes.
and here the European Union is talking about 2% global wealth tax on billionaire, on whole amount. 2% of जो भी उनका अमाउंट है
हाँ, wealth है
उस
जो.
पर. लेकिन यहाँ बात हो रही है, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द ग्लोबल मिनिमम टैक्स अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड. सो नो द केमेंस आइलैंड, मार्शल आइलैंड विल हैव द सेम टैक्स स्ट्रक्चर एज इंडिया और यूएस आफ्टर दैट. मतलब सेम हो जाएगा.
नहीं, टैक्स स्ट्रक्चर सेम नहीं होगा, बस एक
मतलब
जो
2% जो टैक्स हो वो सेम हो जाएगा. मतलब कर
हाँ,
बात
बस
करें तो
एक इस लेवल पे विल बी ऑन द सेम प्लेटफॉर्म. तो उसमें
ओह,
इवन जो ये हमें जो प्रॉब्लम भी आ रही है, ग्लोबल फाइनेंसिंग में भी प्रॉब्लम आ रही है. अगेन इस रिसोर्स को हम कैसे इवन डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर सकते हैं टू एड्रेस सर्टेन चैलेंजेस, इवन व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस के अराउंड. सो दिस कैन बी अगेन शिफ्टेड देयर आल्सो, बट अगेन इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना, कौन कितना टैक्स इम्पोज करना है वो एक चैलेंज है. 2% होना चाहिए, 3% होना चाहिए, 1% होना
और
चाहिए.
दूसरा चैलेंज है कि कितना टैक्स कैसे हम लोग कैलकुलेट करेंगे, उनका वेल्थ कितना है वो भी चैलेंज है.
हम्म.
क्योंकि
हाँ,
जो
और
पोर्ट्रे
जो
करते हैं
wealth
वही ना
है,
वेल्थ है.
हाँ जो वेल्थ है वो भी एक
कितना.
कंट्री में कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड नहीं होगा, तो वहां पे भी
हाँ.
अगेन उसको भी कैसे आप कलेक्ट करोगे, तो इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने में डेफिनेटली बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस रहेंगे. So यहाँ पे again जो बाकी measures as I was just mentioning, global minimum tax 15% on the MNCs has been suggested, and this was adopted in 2012 by 140 countries and territories. It has been a disappointment, and while it was expected to increase the global tax revenues by 10%, a growing list of the loopholes has been reduced expected revenues by a factor of 2. So that's there. Greenwashing is another concern. Greenwashing the global minimum tax, wherein MNCs they use this green tax credits for the low carbon transition to reduce their tax rates way below the minimum of 15%. So basically एक ये loophole है, इसको misuse किया गया है by the MNCs. So these are some other concerns around this topic.
ओके मानसी.
So again, we are seeing cyber attacks happening. So one of the possible solutions can be cyber insurance, which becomes critical for the small and medium enterprises. So even for the businesses having the insurance specifically, cyber insurance is again going to somewhere reduce the risk which is associated with the cyber attacks and the threats, and specifically, obviously, it impacts their finances also. So small and medium units जो हैं, they have become prime targets for the cyber criminals for facing a wide array of cyber risks, including there are data breaches, there is malware attacks, phishing, and denial of service. A kind of attacks are also happening. So these are different forms of attacks, cyber attacks, which are happening on the MSMEs. So going for the insurance is going to be one thing. And again, when we talk about the scientific or the technical, the technology that we have, if that can help us in again averting these kind of threats and attacks, that can be again definitely helpful. When we talk about the certain, that is the Computer Emergency Response Team of India. So developing such kind of softwares, which can again ensure the protection of the software, like strong antiviruses, which adapt to or which can again sense such kind of attacks, that can help. So taking up the Mint newspaper, making sense of India's record food production. तो जब हम food security की बात करते हैं, वो current times में हमारे लिए as a challenge या concern नहीं है, but it can become a challenge because we see food wastage जो हो रहा है, we are again somewhere there is no, we can say, balance or link between the amount of food production and the cold storages that we have. Again, we were someday talking about कि open grain procurement government कर रही है, तो उसके लिए भी जो concerns हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं food wastage को promote करता है and cropping pattern को भी negatively influence करता है. So आने वाले time में, given the again the burden of population, rising population in India, food security concern हमारे लिए हो सकता है if we again जो डेटा हमारे पास आ रहा है, कितना फूड प्रोडक्शन हो रहा है, कितना पैटर्न में चेंज हो रहा है, और डेफिनेटली प्रोडक्टिविटी, इंडिया में एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्टिविटी हमारे लिए एक अभी कंसर्न है. तो प्रोडक्टिविटी हम कैसे इंक्रीज एंड इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं, तो ये सर्टन अगेन डिफरेंट मल्टीपल डायनेमिक्स है अराउंड दिस टॉपिक. सो रिकॉर्ड आउटपुट नोट किया गया है, येट सोअरिंग प्राइसेस. सो रिकॉर्ड आउटपुट के बाद भी फूड इन्फ्लेशन इंक्रीज हो रही है, तो इसके पीछे क्या रीजन हो सकता है. स्पेसिफिकली यहाँ पे अगर हम बात करेंगे, दी सप्लाई चेन, विद इन द सप्लाई चेन नेटवर्क्स जो इंडिया में है, वो इतनी स्मूथली अगर फंक्शन नहीं कर पाएंगे, तो देयर वुड बी अगेन द मिसमैच बिटवीन द डिमांड एंड सप्लाई. सो ओवरऑल सप्लाई जो है हमारे लिए वो प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट जो ट्रांसमिशन हो रहा है, अवेलेबिलिटी इन डिफरेंट पॉकेट्स, डिफरेंट एरियाज इन इंडिया, वो हमारे लिए कंसर्न हो जाता है. सो वी सी, we go by the numbers. Production in million tons 2021-22 figures हैं, 2022-23 figures हैं, and percentage increase and decrease is also there. So rice में we are seeing almost 5% growth. In wheat also 2.6%, coarse grains में there is 12% growth. So here in coarse grains जब हम बात करते हैं, तो millets production में we are seeing 12% growth. इसको हम और कैसे boost कर सकते हैं, जो again साथ के साथ nutritional security वाला element जो aspect है, उसको भी mind में रखना important है. But pulses में we are seeing a decline. तो pulses में we need to now look into कि India pulses import करता है या नहीं करता है, and domestic production और decrease हो रहा है, तो again वो जो import burden है वो और increase हो सकता है, and again pulse prices, जिसकी वजह से food inflation में और fluctuations भी देखने को मिल सकती है.
मानसी, यहाँ पर जो फूड सिक्योरिटी की बात है, यहाँ पर वी ऑल्सो नीड टू इंक्लूड द एरिया ऑफ वाटर प्रोडक्टिविटी एंड ऑल्सो द यूज ऑफ शुगर केन फॉर एथेनॉल प्रोडक्शन. तो उसमें जो वाटर प्रोडक्टिविटी और शुगर केन का यूजेस है, उसके कारण भी फूड सिक्योरिटी इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है, क्योंकि अर्लियर वी वर यूजिंग द वेस्टेज ऑफ द शुगर केन like such as molasses, bagaces, but now we are cultivating sugarcane for ethanol production. So there is a mismatch. हाँ, तो वहाँ पर
वहाँ पे भी फूड सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न इमर्ज हो सकता है, तो हाँ, we need to look into that also. Okay, so I think next we can continue in part 2 of this video. So Pravesh, anything you want to add up for this topic?
नहीं, इसमें हम काफी बात कर चुके हैं पहले भी, तो वी कैन मूव.
ओके, ठीक है. we basically crop estimates, how we can ensure that they can be robust. So government is running again different platforms हमारे पास, wherein farmers they can sell their produce online at again pan India level, किसी भी Indian location पे they can sell, so that again वो जो logistics cost है उसको भी address करने की बात की जा रही है. So government relies on crop cutting experiments by the state revenue and the agriculture departments. Experts they have raised concerns on reliability और जो data collect किया जा रहा है by the understaffed state departments, which often tend to overestimate the production. So even just relying upon these numbers ये भी हम नहीं कर सकते, because again quality of data के ऊपर भी कहीं ना कहीं questions raise किए जा रहे हैं. So India is using remote sensing to cross check this data. So again यहाँ पे भी जो additional cost हमें लगानी पड़ रही है to cross check this data is a problem. Moreover, जो हमारी reliability है, that is low for the crops with multiple plucking. And unlike the food grains, horticultural crops की अगर हम बात करें, they are not harvested in one go, and estimating their yield that becomes much more difficult. So
इसमें एक चीज मुझे बोलनी है कि जब तक हम प्राइवेट सेक्टर को खुली छूट नहीं देते या उनको मतलब सपोर्ट नहीं करेंगे फार्मिंग इंडस्ट्रीज में, उनके खिलाफ जितने भी एप्रीहेंशंस है फार्मर्स के मन में उनको नहीं हटाएंगे, तो आई थिंक ये प्रॉब्लम इतने अच्छे लेवल पे हम डील नहीं कर सकते हैं. एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. रिसेंटली में बाय द अडानी कंपनी, एशियाज बिगेस्ट लॉजिस्टिक पार्क हैज बीन क्रिएटेड इन हरियाणा सोनीपत बेल्ट, and that is gonna improve the the logistic demand and cereals and pulses keeping demand. So इस तरीके से खाली नॉर्थ इंडिया ही नहीं, सेंट्रल इंडिया, साउथ इंडिया, नॉर्थ ईस्ट, यहाँ पर भी अलग अलग जो हमारी वैरायटीज होती है, जैसे नॉर्थ ईस्ट इज द सिट्रस कैपिटल, तो वहां पर उन चीजों के लिए स्पेशलाइज्ड हमें फूड पार्क्स बनाने की जरूरत है और लॉजिस्टिक्स इंफ्रा क्रिएट करने की जरूरत है, ताकि हम उसको अच्छे से एक्सपोर्ट कर पाए, और जब हमारे डिमांड का प्राइस हमें अच्छा मिले तब हम उसे ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट कर पाए, तो इससे इनडायरेक्टली जो फार्मर्स की इनकम है उसमें भी काफी इंप्रूवमेंट देखने को मिलेगी.
हाँ, लेकिन बस एक पॉइंट जो मेरे को हाईलाइट करना है, एक्सपोर्ट्स की बात बाद में आएगी, पहले जो हमारा फूड सिक्योरिटी के अराउंड कंसर्न है वहां पे वी नीड टू बी सेफर. आफ्टर दैट वी कैन अगेन थिंक अबाउट एक्सपोर्टिंग दीज ग्रेन्स. बट यस, गुड पॉइंट्स हाईलाइटेड बाय यू. So I think we can close up here and continue in the next session.